swelling college endowments tempt lawmakers looking for tax dollars. For years, lawmakers in Washington have made swelling university endowments a focus of the populist backlash against high tuition and the concentration of rich students in elite universities. Now they are harnessing that anger with a proposed tax on private colleges and universities that have the wealthiest endowments. The House Republican tax plan released on Thursday includes a 1.4% tax on the investment income of private colleges and universities with at least 500 students and assets of $100,000 or more per full-time student. It would not apply to public colleges. The endowments are currently untaxed, as they are considered part of the nonprofit mission of the colleges. The new tax, if it passed, would bring in an estimated $3 billion from 2018 to 2027, one of many new revenue sources Congress is considering to pay for broad tax cuts. Universities criticized the proposed tax Friday as a blunt instrument that would curb their autonomy and reduce support for poor and moderate-income students. They said the GOP plan was using revenues from universities to offset corporate tax breaks, not to further any educational or social mission. Many middle-class families could also see tax savings under the plan. There is a difference between directing institutions to make sure they are using their resources toward their stated missions of education, missions of access, versus directing institutions toward filling gaps in Washington, and this seems to be the latter. Sean Decatur, president of Kenyon College, said Friday. Supporters of the proposed tax said it was an acknowledgement that universities increasingly were being run like businesses, with tuition continuing to rise and administrative ranks growing, especially at the wealthiest institutions. Representative Tom Reed, a New York Republican whose district includes Cornell University, supports the proposed tax, though his main wish is to force schools with large endowments to spend more of them on tuition assistance. Like other proponents of an endowment tax, he noted that private foundations, which also are nonprofits under the tax code, already pay a tax of 1 to 2% on their investment income. Rather than fight for special treatment, universities should join me in recognizing that young adults are facing a college debt crisis as a result of the uncontrolled escalating costs, Mr. Reed said in an email. We should work together to solve this runaway price issue once and for all. The tax would affect about 140 colleges and universities, according to a list compiled by the Chronicle of Higher Education. Universities have been fiercely protective of their endowments and have ramped up lobbying efforts to keep control over them. Some argued Friday that the tax plan would put a damper on gifts because donors would not want to see the impact of their gifts diminished by the tax. Terry Hartle, senior vice president of the American Council on Education, a trade group, said colleges and universities should be treated differently from foundations. Private foundations give money away. That's not the purpose of colleges and universities, Mr. Hartle said. If you wanted to treat them the same, you'd apply this to all colleges and universities regardless of the value of their endowments, not just a handful of private ones. At Agnes Scott College in Decatur, Georgia, which has an endowment of more than $200 million, the president, Elizabeth Kiss, said that most students were minorities and 40% had incomes low enough to qualify for federal Pell Grants. Because of the endowment, she said, we are able to give financial aid to basically pretty much all of our students. The tax, she said, would amount to a $350,000 cut to an overall budget of $52 million. This is an institution that had a 1% pay raise this year, so it's not like we're fat cats, Ms. Kiss said. A spokesman for Yale University, Tom Conroy, said that the plan would impose a permanent tax on student aid, teaching, research and community services at Yale. He pointed out that the universities with the wealthiest endowments are also those that have the resources to offer need-blind admissions and the strongest support to poor and middle-income students. It is disappointing that the legislation relies so heavily on colleges and universities, and especially the universities with some of the strongest records on financial aid, to raise revenue to enable tax cuts, Mr. Conroy said. We hope that the House of Representatives will reconsider these proposals. Ivy League schools generally have the biggest endowments, and they have been growing fatter since 2008, in part through high-earning investments like commercial real estate, venture capital and hedge funds. At Yale, for instance, the endowment, helped by an 11.3% return on investments after fees, grew to $27